What's up, guys? Welcome back. So a couple months ago I made a video called Do We Need God, where I went over this article called The 5 Best Reasons Not to Believe in God, and it was some very common atheist talking points that people use all the time that I figured I would debunk. I took that video down because I'm remaking it today. The reason I'm remaking it today is because I want to make it less sloppy than the last one and quicker, and I have more to say this time. So hopefully we can get this done in like 10 minutes or less, at most 15 minutes. I read a quote that said, apply the same critical thinking that you apply to religion to atheism. So that's what we're going to be doing today with these points. And let's just get started. Let's do it. So you already made an error, because if you are saying that religion makes people do appalling things and that people do horrible things in the name of religion, which you will say later on, then I guess by this logic the world can do without government powers, biology, and science, because people have done horrible things in the name of that stuff too. But we'll get to that in a second when you get more in depth into that. Let's just continue for now. Oh, actually, I realized I should probably slow this down. Yeah, there we go.
Our main going to be upfront. My open goal is to believe in God and religion that, underpinned, are right from the face of the earth. I think they are prodigious, facile, and malevolent, and I think the world would be a better place without them. If I can make any contribution to this, no matter how small, I consider it worthwhile. So now that my cards are on the table, I thought I'd lay out what I consider to be the best 5 reasons to stop believing. I don't imagine that any fundamentalist Muslims or reborn Christians are going to be persuaded, but for those on the fence or open to the possibility of non-belief, this may tip you over the edge. I also, by the way, don't hope to satisfy academic philosophers with rigors of my case. You guys don't need my own with this stuff anyway.
So, you used a lot of big words there to describe religion, none of which were good. But I don't know if you realize that religion, especially Christianity, which you're going to attack later on, has led to the rise of modern science and a lot of good things that, we'd consider good in today's standards in society. So I don't understand how you can say that they're evil and malevolent. Your whole argument is going to be that it's because people do horrible things in the name of it, and we'll get to that. I basically already addressed that, but we'll get to it. Don't worry.
List 1 no evidence. I will list most things we accept on the basis of proof. That proof is not always rock solid. Some of it is based on purist media claims, for example, but there is a standard for which we hold most of our beliefs. Things that don't meet that standard. The tooth fairy, let's say, the star is not impossible, but extremely unlikely. God, however, many people accept with no proof at all. Belief in God is a product of upbringing, societal and cultural convention, a desire for comfort and intellectual laziness.
Okay, so you have another error. So I will concede that some people do accept God without proof and don't bother to investigate. But to say there's no evidence, or that it's illogical, which you're going to say next, is ridiculous. And also saying that people are intellectually lazy if they believe it, well, that's just not true, because there's plenty of very sophisticated arguments in favor of God, which you yourself are going to admit. So that's a contradiction that you made in this article, and not me. Keep in mind, these are not my quotes. These are his quotes that I'm going to be showing. But no, intellectual laziness, that's just not true. And no evidence, that's not true. But he's going to get more in depth in his second point with that, so let's just follow him along.
There is no evidence that God exists. You may have had some kind of personal experience, but anecdotal evidence doesn't convince you personally that he's out there. But most people would concede that kind of evidence is not evidence at all. It can't be repeated under test. Condition that there are other possible explanations for what may have happened. In fact, no one has ever presented one iota of persuasive evidence that there is a God.
So, yeah, again, not true. We'll get to that.
Listed 1 item 2 is logical. I will list in the absence of evidence. Some people try to argue that there must be a God because nothing else makes sense. This not making sense ranges from the naive. I just feel that there must be a bigger purpose to life. The sophisticated arguments presented by theologians, philosophers, and apologists. I cannot present and knock down every instance of these arguments here. However, I can say this. The idea that one can reason God into existence is a failed project. The best thing on the table. To do is to show that God could be an explanation for how the universe got here and could be the best available explanation. I wouldn't accept either of these, but even if I did, they do not constitute a conclusive logical position.
So now I can actually address this. Let's go. Let's take this piece by piece. All right.
To do is to show that God could be the idea that one can reason God into existence is a failed project. The best thing on the table. To do is to show that God could be an explanation for how the universe got here and could be the best available explanation. I wouldn't accept either of these, but even...
Okay. The best anyone has been able to do is to show that it's the best available explanation, and even if that's true, it doesn't constitute a logical position. Well, here's the problem. When you add up all the evidence together, like the teleological fine-tuning argument that I presented in my YouTube short called "Is There Proof for God?" And you can watch that if you would like to see how that argument goes. It's very quick. The cosmological argument, the arguments from science, the transcendent argument, there's a bunch of different arguments that when added all up together not only constitute a logical position, but show that that is the only position that not just makes sense, but it's the only logical one. Atheism is not logical because it has to address all these other factors, and a lot of the times it ends up making huge leaps of faith that, ironically, they criticize people for having faith, but they have to make like huge leaps of faith. For example, one of the big objections to the fine-tuning argument is to say that there's a multiverse, which nobody has proved. So, I don't understand. The most logical position is that there is a creator. When you add up all these things together. So that's just not true, because again, add up all the evidence together, it's not just a maybe, it's like a pretty much definitive. Okay, this one's going to be a bit difficult to address, but we'll come through it, don't worry. Alright, so the problem of suffering and the problem of evil that he's also going to bring up. I can address the problem of evil here. It's a very, very complicated problem. But it basically boils down to this. We were created with the freedom to accept or reject God and do whatever we want. Okay? That, I think we can all agree on, at least the part that we have the freedom to do whatever the hell we want. So that one is true. Since we have that freedom, we choose to do evil things. For example, some of the things that he's going to list, like wars and genocide and torture, those are all things that human beings have done to other human beings. As for the suffering part, the unnecessary suffering that he's going to list right now. The existence of suffering is an impossible problem for humans in all good, caring not to solve. Even if they use the room to argue that without some suffering there would be no charity, or that people who do wrong are punished, they cannot account for the suffering of. Innocent children and animals, the worst, the devout believers in their faith. What kind of God, we may ask, amplifies us more colorfully, has created a world in which children die of floods, starve to death, perish in agony from TB malaria? What kind of God allows people who worship in the dark to be murdered, raped, tortured, and come to countless other hideous ends? So, yeah, the last half of that is free will. People do that because they want to do that. Not because it's, God's fault. Now, the whole point about allowing it, well, sure. But if he were to step in every single time that there was some horrible evil going on, then it wouldn't be freedom. It would be like a playpen where there's an overprotective mom who, anytime her child gets hurt, she has to rush in and stop the thing going on so that everything can be fine and normal and all good. That wouldn't be humanity. That wouldn't be freedom. If your freedom is restricted, it's not really freedom. As for your suffering point about floods, starving children, etc., there's a lot of different things that can solve this problem. I would recommend Inspiring Philosophy, The Problem of Suffering, a Christian Response, and The Problem of Evil, a Christian Response. They both address these problems very well. There's a bunch of different things that you can use, even kind of outside Christianity. I just like the Christianity solutions better. They make more sense. Like, I suppose you could go with the Islamic idea that this life is a test. I don't really like it that much. It's just not really that logical to me compared with the other solutions. But keep in mind that if we're going to be using the children argument, then you also have to factor in the fact that we believe in a couple things. Firstly, the age of accountability. Anybody who doesn't reach that, the age where you can actually understand what you're doing is wrong and you can actively choose to do wrong things and know they're wrong. If you are before that age, then we believe that you're just going to go to paradise. That's what we believe. And so these children, this having happened to them, I mean, yeah, it's horrible, but we believe they're going to end up in a much better place, and that the happiness they're going to enjoy in the afterlife is going to dwarf the suffering that they had in this world. And that's my question is, what better place could they go? We believe they're going to go to an afterlife because they're blameless.
This does not preclude the existence of any God, of course. God might be as bad as a maniac. He may be a vicious, sadistic God, or like the Greeks and Romans before us, he may be a pantheon of narcissistic gods who have no interest in looking out for us.
Yeah, so you admit that's not exactly proof against God. I don't understand why a lot of people think that it is. It's really not. Although, the whole concept of a maniacal God is also flawed as well, but that's beyond the scope of this video.
The God who is benevolent and loving, and our goal, the Christian God, is who would never create. The world we live in it requires you shuttering yourself off from the carnage all around you, or crafting frankly ridiculous excuses. God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, that's a pretty dumb excuse. Yeah, I'll agree with you there. But a God who is loving and good will not create the world that we live in. Well, for the most part, we create the world that we live in. Not that we made the world or anything, but like we shape it. We create the societies. We do the atrocities. We do a lot of terrible things. So, if our freedom is to be allowed, and it is, then he can't step in when this stuff happens.
We don't need him.
We don't need him. So this was my original question. It was, do we need God? We'll let him make his point, and then I'll answer it.
I will with him, because it is exactly an argument against the truth of God, but it is a reason to stop worrying about him. We don't require God. He is a necessary addition to the universe, and it's been perfectly well without him.
So, if I was to tell you that Apple could get along, or no, the iPhone could get along perfectly well without Apple, its creator and its designer and its sustainer, would you think that I'm crazy? Yes, you would, because it's ridiculous to say that. How can it function without it? That's the same thing that this argument is trying to say, is that we don't need the creator, even though he's the creator, and without us without him we would not exist. Does that make any sense? No. We at the very least needed him to be brought into the world.
The most common arguments for why we need God as a personal savior or caretaker, and that without him and religion, we would not know what is morally right and wrong.
Okay.
Let me start with the last first. Human morality is not brought into existence by God or the Bible. We do not require a commandment. The zealous act killing is wrong, and we do not need the threat of eternal damnation to make us do what is right. To prove this, I need only point out that most Western states operate on the basis of a constitution, and the rule of law has nothing to do with religion or the Bible. Killing someone has legal consequences, and most normal people with a conscience regard it as wrong without the need for a cosmic force to tell them. Oh, but I hear you say, surely these laws and rights have a biblical origin? Do you really believe that? Do you think that free religious societies have no taboos in regard to the preservation of life, property, and other things we hold dear, that the principle like to undo? Others would not naturally emerge from any group of sentient beings living in the same place. This is quite apart from the fact that many of the laws in the Bible are just created. We have not, thankfully and for the most part, transferred most of Leviticus and Deuteronomy into modern law. Those Islamic states who have, and would enforce real law, are widely regarded as zones of war by most sensible people.
So, that's not Levitical law. There's a couple things to unpack here, but that last point, that's not Levitical law. That's their own law that they created. But, regardless, maybe your point about the Bible could stand. That's a whole different can of worms. But, you're citing morality as if it's objective, and that's where you fail. Because you cannot have objective morality without having a source for that objective morality. You cannot have, in a chance universe that came about by accident and chance, transcendent things that transcend time and place, and you could be on a whole different universe and it would still be the same. For example, mathematical laws, logical laws, and for you, unfortunately, morality. It has to have a source, because otherwise these things would not be constants. They would be manipulatable. But the laws of mathematics and logic are not manipulatable. So you have to have a source for these things. Now, there's a whole argument on morality, whether it's relative and subjective or not. I don't believe so. But again, this is not in the scope of this video to argue. That's for a different topic, a different video. Other people have addressed that, like Inspiring Philosophy, who I highly recommend if you haven't been able to tell yet. But your objection about morality, which you seem to be making a huge deal out of, doesn't actually work if there's no moral source. That's the bottom line.
And do we need God as a personal savior? Well, some people might. The idea of God might provide comfort and explanation for the mysteries of the universe. However, this is misleading to say he is needed. Many people survive and thrive perfectly well without a God concept or religion. Myself being one example. We do not rampage or lose our way or become outcasts. And so, whilst certain individuals may derive comfort from believing God as their right, this is neither a necessary or sufficient condition for living a good life. Listed one items out of the list.
Well, I don't know, because a lot of people, and I'm going to speak from personal experience, actually, when they believe and accept the idea that there's no meaning in the universe and there is nothing, it kind of depresses them. It kind of takes a toll on their mental health, and I can speak again from personal experience that that's not good to believe. So it actually does lead to an attitude that everything is meaningless, and it actually does make people enjoy their lives less, because what point is there? That also destroys your morality argument, because if there's no meaning and there's nothing there and there's no morality, which you accidentally argued but also contradicted yourself on, then there's no reason why we shouldn't kill people, there's no reason why we shouldn't torture people, there's no reason why anything that is regarded as wrong shouldn't be done, if there's no actual morality or moral source. But again, your point about people being able to live meaningful lives without this concept that there's meaning, that's kind of contradictory. Maybe they can think they're living a meaningful life, but at the end of the day, it will not be meaningful if there's no actual meaning, and that's actually what they believe. Alright, let's continue with this last one. Life's better without him, okay?
Out of list religion is about control and limitation. Rules, laws, and rituals that restrict and govern. Behavior. In some cases, say the general relation limits are buried rites of passage. Practiced by religions such as Judaism, they actually persuade nice people to do awful things.
Okay, two things. This last one first, as he says. Persuade people to do awful things if they're nice people. Well, you don't really need much to do that. Because in that Problem of Evil video I mentioned, there was studies done that showed that people will just do evil things and they don't really have to have much of a good reason. It's like people will do awful things in the name of any number of things, which is also the next thing you're going to say. But this idea that religion is responsible for nice people doing awful things, that can be literally anything. I mean, think about it. If you were on an island and you had no food or water, but you did have another person with you and you were starving, a lot of people are going to end up using that person as food because they want to survive, because they're selfish. So it really doesn't persuade a lot of people. It doesn't take a lot to persuade people to do horrible things. Because again, in that study that I was just talking about, there was some people ordering others to administer shocks that sometimes could be lethal, and then there was like patient actors. And 90% of the people administered all the shocks, even the lethal ones, just because they were ordered to. Again, that video goes way more into depth with that, and I will link it. But just saying, it doesn't take much.
Behavior. In some cases, say the general religion is about control and limitation. Rules.
Religion is about control and limitations. Well, which religion are you talking about? Christianity? Because I can tell you Christianity isn't about that. Christianity is, we like to consider it a relationship with God, that we see everything that God has done for us, and out of love for God and gratitude, we do what is right because we want to. Not because it's, oh, we're going to do stuff and then God's going to give us a reward. We're specifically told not to think that way. There's some theologies where, religions and in the theology, where if your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds, you will go to paradise and stuff. I don't believe that. I don't believe anything that we do could earn that. But that's not what Christianity is. The rules are there so that you keep them willingly, not because it's some type of like trade system. And the Judaism thing, I'm not Jewish, so I don't think I'm going to defend that one. I have friends who are probably Jewish who are going to answer that question. So, name of God and religion, yeah, I addressed this one at the beginning.
Suicide, bombings, torture, genocide, forced marriages, unwanted babies, war, the list is endless.
Unwanted babies? Is that a pro-choice one? Is that like, is that you giving a pro-choice endorsement? That's nonsense. Okay.
life without religion, without God,
see.
suicide, bombings, torture, genocide, forced marriages, unwanted babies, war, the list is endless.
Yeah, all that stuff is stuff that people do out of their own free will. So I address that as well.
A life without religion, without God does offer freedom from all these miseries. It offers a person the opportunity, the parameters of the society in which person the opportunity to do what they like, in line with their own moral code, which is the parameters of the society in which they live. Each decision to be taken is evaluated on its own merits, weighing up the pros and cons, and is not forced down the path by a pre-existing code of conduct dating from a time of ignorance and superstition. Life is better without God and religion, encouraging you to make poor choices and validating them. When you do.
I wouldn't say that life is better without a meaning or purpose. I think that's just ridiculous to say that.
The journey to escaping the God idea and rejecting religion can be a long one. For those invested in these notions, they may begin unable to imagine a meaningful life without them.
Well, you can't. You know why they can't imagine it? Because that doesn't exist.
However, it starts with a seed of doubt.
That's
With the sense that
why.
the fairy story is work here, not the solid rock of reality.
Yeah, no, I addressed that as well.
Perhaps these 5 arguments will plant that small seed for the reading of this piece. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I did not get shaken in my faith. I did not get my faith rocked because of that.
The solid, however, invested in the journey to escaping.
Let's see. Anything else I have left to
When you do.
address?
The journey to escaping the God idea and when you do. The journey when you do. Life is better without God and religion, encouraging you
Life
to make
is
poor choices.
better without God validating your choices. Where? When does that happen?
When you do. Life is conduct dating from a time of ignorance and superstition. Merits, weighing up the pros and cons, and is not forced down the path by a pre-existing code of parameters of the society in which they live. Each decision to be taken is evaluated on its own merits.
So here you're presupposing moral relative.
Conduct dating from a time of ignorance and superstition.
So
Merits, parameters of the
I
opportunity.
already went through
A life without
that.
religion, without God does offer freedom from all these miseries. It offers a
Freedom from these miseries, that's what I want to focus on. Because I think that's also ridiculous to claim. I mean, what miseries? Like, what miseries? You haven't proven that there's any miseries in
a life with
religion
suicide,
at
torture, genocide,
all.
for the life without religion.
If you think that, you're trying to make the statement that you are not going to experience suicide and genocide and bombings and all that stuff without religion, that's just delusional. People do that stuff regardless of religion. Some people just do it because they want to. A lot of mass shooters, for example, just do it because they want to, for fun. Like, I don't understand where this absurd idea is coming from.
Person the parameters of the society in which they live. Each decision to be taken is evaluated on its own merits, weighing up the pros and cons, and is not forced down the path by a pre-existing code of conduct dating from a time of ignorance and superstition.
Well, what would you say is wrong with the New Testament, law? That's my last question, because you're just kind of making these bold claims, and you're not giving anything to back them up. You're just kind of presupposing it's all true and then putting it up here and then expecting no one to challenge you on it.
Life is better without God and religion, encouraging you to make poor choices and validating them.
Yeah. With that being said, everybody, these are very common atheist objections. If you know how to deal with them, you're set. So, my final words here are, if you are a non-believer, I hope this made you at least think a little bit. And if you already believe, I hope this gave you some good arguments to use and good ways to defend your faith and stuff. Because that's what I'm here to do at the end of the day. I want to be helpful with this kind of stuff. This stuff matters to me and to many other people, and I think it should be defended as well as it can be, as we are commanded to do in the Bible in 1 Peter 3:15. But with that being said, everybody, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it better than the last video, subscribe, because we do videos about politics and religion and all types of stuff like that. So if that's your thing, then I think this channel will be your thing. So if you enjoy, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.